We are recording.
Hello, I want to welcome everybody to the January 3rd Racial Justice and Equality Commission meeting. Today we've got a relatively small agenda, but I look forward to some discussion. So we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, shall we? Now, on the docket, the first thing that we've got are three things that we're going to open the floor for, and this is really just an opportunity for us as commission members to, bring about some proposals or some ideas. The first thing is we had talked about changing our meeting schedule. There were a few things that had been floated during the last meeting. So primarily, we have been meeting every other month in a full commission, and then in between those months as separate committees, one of the 5 separate committees in groups. And the discussion had been raised that we might meet on a different schedule based upon the committee meetings being a little less and then our full commission meetings being more. I had talked about some ideas. I've since abandoned my idea, since I know that we cannot have special meetings for those separate committee meetings. So I wanted to open the floor for any ideas to be proposed for an alternate meeting schedule other than the one that we currently have established.
Can you clarify what you just said, though? We can't do what?
So the idea that I had thought about, which Director Brown helped me understand was not possible, was we could have monthly commission meetings and then as needed call a special meeting for a separate committee meeting to talk about. Can't do that. Special meetings are reserved for different criteria.
What about the idea of meeting as a full group every month, but then the subcommittees meet on a determined quarterly basis? So it's kind of like calling a special meeting, but we know that we're going to meet at least quarterly with the subcommittees.
So the date when that quarterly meeting would take place would not necessarily be defined, but it would be an understanding that we would have a quarterly meeting as a separate committee for that particular.
Right, so it wouldn't technically be a special meeting.
It would.
Or it would, even if it was,
It is not a scheduled meeting.
I was gonna say, I
It
think,
has to be scheduled.
but couldn't it be scheduled
can't just-
quarterly?
You can't just say, we're gonna have one meeting every quarter. It has to be a scheduled date.
so you
So
can
I
have,
could pick a date.
yeah, you
Yeah.
have to say, we are meeting every quarter on the 3rd day of the month at 2:30.
Yeah.
But what month?
Right, the month,
Yeah.
like you'd have to have it all lined
Yeah, of
out,
the quarter,
like,
right.
like November, February, whatever the ever 3rd month is.
So, I'm just gonna throw it out there. Shouldn't we discuss the proposed commission and committee goals before because I think those goals are gonna determine how often those committees need to meet. If we have well-defined or at least somewhat defined goals, this is what the committee should be doing, then we can go ahead and create schedules that meet those goals. Because without having goals, what are we meeting for? Why do we need to meet? How often do we need to meet? For what? And so my idea is, should we be discussing the sub-item A first, create those goals, create an expectation, create somewhat of an agenda or at least some ideas of where we're going, and then we'll see how often we need to meet.
That makes sense to me.
Reasonable.
I do not disagree.
Can I quote you guys in front of my wife? Just kidding.
One more time. Into the
One more.
It's already on camera.
Yeah.
Send you the link for the live stream.
Yeah, I think.
He's sweating now.
I think, right? No, I think that makes all the sense in the world. So yeah, let's talk about B first, because although they're in this order on the sheet, they don't have to be talked about in any specific order. So backing up, proposed commission or committee goals? What thoughts, what ideas do we have?
So we had, oh,
No, go ahead, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, we had talked about doing some neighborhood meetings or public events kinds of things. And so maybe one of our goals, and obviously needs, refined, but maybe it is identify 3 things the public would like to see changed, or 3 things the public identifies as a concern related to your subcommittee. So for health equity or health disparities, we would need to go to meetings for the next couple of months and sort of identify the concerns, the areas that they are wanting to see improved, and then, so our goal is to identify those, and then in the next 3 months, we would work to see what we could do to gather information and potentially make recommendations to improve that. So just sort of throwing that out there for discussion, not necessarily the goal itself.
I think that's a good idea from a feedback perspective. I'm just thinking about the number of meetings that we would need to have, or the size of the meetings, or other modalities by which we can collect information, because number one, public engagement, community, neighborhood engagement, I think that is such a crucial part of what we can do, both from a sense of, showing a presence and representation, but from the standpoint of actionable data. And I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but many of the meetings that take place, they may have a particular theme, let's say theme, and so everyone there will potentially have a like-minded view, and which is fine, but making sure that we have enough of those meetings or other ways to collect data that will inform our decisions. Does that make sense? That's just what I'm thinking off the top of my head. But for multiple reasons, I agree wholeheartedly that community engagement, we've got to do that, and having that as a goal is good. I'd like to preface it with the data that we collect and how we utilize it.
I think we also spoke about earlier about trying to identify already set meetings that happen in the communities, whether it's going to church, going to the Lyric, or going somewhere where they already have set meetings where we can actually get in front of the people that we want to engage, and then once we have that set up, we can figure out which one of the representatives from the commission have time to go to the meeting, talk to the people, maybe collect information. That way, then we can go to your step of trying to figure out, dispersing the information to all the different subcommittees, and figuring out how we can address those concerns, and then start setting a schedule for the community engagement meetings. So,
I think one way to address that and tackle that, because like when we did the meeting with the police, a few of us decided, okay, we're gonna go on our own time, and one way to handle that, I think, would be to go to a lot of the neighborhood association meetings.
yeah.
They meet at different times. I go to a few of them, Northside, and a couple more. So I think that will be a good way to get us out
Yeah.
in front of the people there, and then to kind of talk about commission, and then to start with some sort of collection of, we're here to address, what are your concerns, what are you looking for, and then we can, from there, we'll have, a little more to move on.
Following up on what he said, the Greater Garden Side, and I'm so sorry, I didn't
It's
see your
okay.
hand.
It's okay.
Remember, hi.
We've got time.
The Greater Garden Side Neighborhood Association is having an open meeting for the Cardinal Valley, the Alexandria, all of that Versailles Road, and I think that's important. I just happened to hear about that because of Jennifer Reynolds, who's District 11, and that they Savigny, I think is back. No, he's 10, she's 11, but I think that's critical because one of the things that I included in my report was that back last year or somewhere, the Harwood Institute identified, and Mr. Harwood writes that the commission, that it was identified that certain members of our community feel that they don't have a voice. And I think that's where we were called in. We need to, and meeting with those neighborhoods association makes so much sense because then we can hear from them. And now the key is going to be, how do we find them? I just happen to find the Greater Garden side because I'm in that area, that Versailles Road. We purchased a building in that area, so we're trying to be part of the community. How can we meet? But there's so much stuff on downtown east or north and so forth that we need to be aware of, and we need to be their voice. So I think it's a good idea. I just don't know how we go about
I think
finding.
enough of us have, and not to have some contacts with the different, I have 3 or 4 for myself. I'm on different groups. I'm actually on the Cardinal Hill neighborhood group, even though I live in McConnell's Trace. To help to listen to some of their concerns. So I think we can find out when those meetings
Yes.
are, and then we can say, you'll go to this meeting when it meets on this date, or yada yada yada. I think that'll be very important, and it would pay out big dividends for actually going to people and asking what are your concerns instead of having people sit and wait and wondering when they can be heard.
I want to kind of add in what kind of everybody was talking about too, but to bring in what you're saying. I think that to operationalize, to be able to bring some structure to what we're asking, sharing, that kind of thing, I'd like to see us back up a little bit, define race and racism and racial equity, create some terminology, gather some local facts, and then for us to maybe consider what are some of the measurements that would signal change. And so then we have a little bit of structure, because to your point, every meeting is going to have, this is our road project that's our chief concern right now, or this is our, I think we could spend the next year hearing where everyone's pain points are, and then still not know what we want to do with that. But if we can say, here's the terminology, here's the, the measurements that we're going to be looking for, and then to have those specific questions of, what's the most urgent impact or issue for your group? What obstacles slow positive progress? What actions and what positive impact do you see already happening around you? So we could have a set of questions that we bring in already to give some structure to the feedback that we gather, so it would make sense in relationship to all the different meetings that we have. And I was looking at the formal purpose of our group to assemble diverse community members to listen, discuss, and create empowering solutions that dismantle systemic racism in Fayette County. But as we do that, we haven't even necessarily talked about one definition of systemic racism, or what we think would dismantle systemic racism in Fayette County. And if we go to all these neighborhood groups and ask what they think would dismantle it, it might still be a little bit loose. And then the guiding principles that they had, acknowledging the problem, asking the questions, addressing obstacles, and recommending specific actions. So that kind of goes back to the work that we've all talked about, and we want to be able to amplify the voices of the community to acknowledge the issues, they'll know what some of those obstacles are, but it's almost like we need to go 30,000 feet first and say, what do we define as the terms, and what kind of measurements might track movement? And then we can have a bank of questions, and we've talked about this a little bit before, about going into those meetings, knowing what questions we want to universally ask each one. And that they, I think you said before, if we can let them know before we come what those questions are, they may even want to prepare those, so it's not just off the cuff for
And
them.
That's, I get what you're saying, but with the last part is what I was talking about, using those meetings as a vehicle for that. Like, when I would go to the meetings and, you know, talk about NAACP or talk about, you know, working for Habitat or whatever, you know, I am this person, this is what I do, I'm with this organization, this is what we do. You know, we want to connect with you all, and then we'll have like some information, contact, you know, reach out to us with, you know, questions, while we're doing our thing, and then we go back. So I'm not saying go there and just sit down and say, what's your issue? But I mean, how many people know who we are and what we do, actually?
Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
And
Just,
that would help build trust.
just going and
over
saying,
time.
you know, this is who we are, this is what we were commissioned to do. You know, this is our mission, these are our goals. We want to make ourselves available to you. We want you to reach out to us. You know, here's a way to reach out to us. You know, send us, you know, questions, tell us your concerns while we're doing our thing here. Then we can formulate something, and then we, you know, we have already made contact. So then we would say, okay, we're gonna have a public forum, like the police thing I've been trying to, you know, I've been keep bringing up, you know, trying to get them to do like a, you know, monthly or every other month, you know, thing with the community. You know, so that we will have that, then we can send those to the public channels, the community channels, and say, okay, you know, based on the information we got, based on us getting our stuff together, what we decided, we're gonna have community forum this day, at this place, this place, this place. But I'm just saying, a lot of people don't know who we are. I'm just saying, just get out there and introduce ourselves, and you know, not just go and sit and. Because, yeah, it will be a long list of questions. Well, I'm worried more about housing than this, or da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
And just, you know.
Can I make so I heard what you said. And I think that's a very good starting place, is to come up with some shared language. But what I want to think about bringing the community as a whole in to create that shared language. So maybe that could be goal number one.
That could be great.
Is convening a forum around, you know, racial justice and equity in Lexington, where we bring in the community and begin to define some of these terms. So maybe that could move us to.
There's a group in Louisville, and when we were down there for the National Association of Black Veterans State Conference, and one of the community, he's a bishop in the community, they have there's either weekly or bi-weekly meeting where they have a state attorney, they have a police representative, they have a fire, they have somebody from homeless, da-da-da. Everybody comes, they have breakfast together, they sit down and discuss, you know, why are people pulling over, you know, black people and yada, yada, yada. I mean, everybody different. So something like that would be because I mentioned that before, would be a great goal. But I think we have to have a forum, because we just can't say we're going to do this if it's not what the people want. But I think going to those meetings to say, this is who we are, this is what we're charged to do, we need your input, reach out to us, and then we start that process.
So, two thoughts that I have. One, I think shared language is incredibly important, because you can have two people putting a lot of energy. Two or more people putting a lot of energy into a debate or a discussion and saying different things with the same words. Along that same line, we have a ton of language that has already been documented in the recommendations that we have.
Exactly.
And I think it would make sense for us to look at that and pull together a template that can kind of guide our work, because the last thing we want to do is to create
Invent the
or
road.
go down that road, and then we have contradicted some of the work that's already happened. The next thing is the work that's already happened. I think still there are many people that don't realize some of the things that have taken place. And so in addition to seeking information, I think it will also be an important aspect to share what has been done and to look for feedback specifically on those recommendations that have been implemented. So those are just two thoughts.
So I have several things I wrote down while you guys were talking. What data we need to review? How do we measure that data as for success? How do we engage the community? And then the transparency piece on like the policy practices, shared language. And when we think about goals, the goals were set before we became even on this commission. The goals were set by a whole another year-long process, another group of people. I think that we need to stick to those goals, stick to those language that was already set in those language in there. But it's now, as Whit was saying, we were commissioned to be the voice of the people. So I think that our number one goal is community engagement. How do we engage the community and how do we bring back what we've learned? Then, what do we do with it? How do we share and how do we implement it? So there's been a lot of suggestions. We've talked round and round, but what has actually been implemented and how do we know it's been successful? So a few of our goals are pretty simple. Engage the people, share what's been done and if it's even worked, and how do we measure success? You know, I don't think we go too broad. I think we keep it simple. The work that was done before we got here, we stand on those shoulders and that we stay true to it. We don't want to reinvent the wheel.
When will we know when our recommendations are being implemented by the
Exactly.
council? Have they been looked at or have they voted on them? Or when will we know what our recommendations were, the results?
Well, there's going to be a report that will be submitted in a presentation that Director Brown will be providing. I believe that is in February. Is that?
That's what we're trying to get on the docket for February.
So is that report reflective of the work we've done and the outcomes?
That report
Okay.
will include the reports that I have received from these committees, which I still have not received one. I do have all the recommendations, but I still have not received one report. We will do a presentation to council and administration. They've already reviewed the recommendations, and we are already working on implementation of several of those recommendations. One being the name change. That's been worked on since we voted on it. But that's kind of how that process is going to roll out. We just voted to approve these recommendations at the beginning of December, and council has been on break since mid-December. So, and they still aren't back. So we resume and try to pick up where we left off.
So I think, I just want to maybe summarize what you're saying is we maybe need, and I'm just going to say handout, that has some of our shared language that's already been in the report there, some of the recommendations, maybe our recommendations that we made, even though they haven't necessarily been voted on and approved, and then the goals that are created for us, like all on this template, that then when we go to community engagements, we can share with them who we are, what our charge is as a commission, and then have just a few questions trying to get at the information we want to know. After we've done that, then we bring all of that information back and we compile it, because this place may talk about housing and this may talk about transportation or education or health. And so we may gather a lot of this information, but then we just need to bring it back and have a process to organize it and figure out then sort of what our next steps are. So that's, I think, what I'm hearing sort of the group say.
I think something else that we all learned from December's meeting is that all of the different committees, whatever our recommendations were, it all hinges on an office being created within LFUCG to be because all of us are also talking about how we're going to track what we're doing. Is it effective and such? Obviously, we can't do that because we don't have the capacity for it. So a lot of what we're trying to do, we can put all of the programs and everything in place, but we still don't, we're still kind of sort of like up in the air as to whether or not Director Brown's office is going to become larger or if there's going to be a separate office to be able to actually track what we're doing to make sure that we, for our next report, we can say, look, we did all, we recommended this, these came to fruition, and this is the change we've seen thus far.
Yeah.
So,
But from a transparency standpoint, the fact that we did report those
yeah,
recommendations, whether they happen or not,
yeah.
you know, that's information that the community want to know, that at least we are
Yeah,
trying.
yeah.
You know, if we can only do what's like you said, what's within our capacity.
Yeah.
But
That's-
they can see that you're doing the work with the people. We're requesting this. We're trying to get this. We're trying to make this change. We can only go so far up to the line, and then
Yeah.
it's the next, you know, groups.
And that's really, for me, I am, most people who know me, I'm a doer. And I think we're in a room full of doers, people who like to do things. And it's tricky when, in what we're doing, at the end of the day, we are not the implementers, right? We're strictly making recommendations. But back to Mr. Adair's point, being a voice for the community, and to Ms. Sass's point, making sure that we consolidate exactly what information we need to have in a sheet when we go out to them. So I want to paraphrase what you said just to make sure. So shared language, and this is based upon a sheet that we would use to engage. So we have our shared language, then we've got what has been implemented, current recommendations, a set list of engagement talking points, which are really just questions to solicit feedback.
I think it's important that we have a little bit about the commission, who we are and what we're charged to do, like the overall arching goals.
Yes,
I think-
ma'am.
The
yeah,
purpose.
the purpose, yeah. I think that's important for people to know.
And just to state that again, so it continues to be in our minds, to assemble diverse community members to listen, discuss, and create empowering solutions that dismantle systemic racism in Fayette County. Guiding principles, acknowledging the problem, asking questions, addressing obstacles, and recommending specific actions.
Could you read the first part of that?
The purpose, assemble diverse community members
Boom, right there. And that's what we're not doing.
to listen, discuss, and create
Not
solutions.
the rest of it, I'm saying that first part is
Mhm.
what we're not doing.
Right, that's what's next.
And then the guiding principles
Right.
really are what
The
we're
mechanism.
trying to get
Mhm.
out of these meetings. They've left me.
Yeah,
but-
acknowledging the problem.
Yep, identifying it.
Asking
knowing it.
questions, addressing obstacles, and recommending specific actions.
So we've done those, right? I mean, to an extent. There's gonna be a whole nother set of rules, but we've addressed obstacles. We've done recommendations. Now, I don't even know, and not to put anybody on blast, if we go sit here and talk about all the recommendations we made. And then I guess we're at the point now, we've made these recommendations. What is implemented? What is not? And then we ask the question, why not? You know, what's the barrier to implementing these recommendations? And maybe somebody has a great reason why they shouldn't implement them. But I think we're at that point, to be honest, is that after these are implemented or not implemented, then we find out why it was implemented, and then how do we measure what is being implemented, right?
Along those lines, yes, I agree with you, but I'm just gonna say a few things, and hopefully this will kind of create a baseline for how we move forward. And just to back up, earlier you said that we already have our goals, 100%. And I'm just gonna put my training, learning development hat on for a second. So you have objectives, for lack of a better word, we'll call those goals, right? Then you have enabling objectives. Those are the things that allow you to accomplish the goal. So I think although we did come in with recommendations and goals that had already been set, our work now is to enable those goals. And it could mean creating little spider webs of different schools of thought or different activities. But in that same line, as we move forward, being present as far as the timeline that we're working on, I feel there's a gap of time where there'll be deliberation that happens by the council. So we cannot, I'm sorry.
There's no deliberation by council. Once you all make the recommendations, it does not go to council for approval or anything like that. These are the recommendations that have come from this committee. There is no other authority to strike down what has been recommended by this group. Now, it's either whether it can or cannot, will or will not be
Right.
implemented. That's the difference.
Who decides that? If it can't be struck down, then who decides if it's implemented or not?
Well, there are things that can and cannot be implemented, looking at the original report. So there are, mind you, this commission is commissioned by or has authority through Lexington, Fayette, Urban County government. That's the purview of this commission. So there are, in the first report, there are 17 through 25 recommendations that are made to the courts.
Right.
We have no jurisdiction over the courts, so
Exactly.
we cannot implement those recommendations. So there are things like that that cannot be implemented.
There may be some
There
financial
are
things.
that financial barriers. There are also, one of the recommendations, I believe there's a KRS statute against implementing that recommendation. So there are other challenges.
Those are good to know, right?
Yeah.
So say for instance, you make a recommendation and KRS says there's a law against that, then that's something that's good for us to know, to relay to the community. Hey, we recommended that, we did this, but there's a law that says no.
Right.
Now we got to change the laws because we know that laws don't always make sense, right? Or the money's not available to implement. Well, now it's time to us to talk to taxpayers and say, hey, this needs to be. But for us to know what's been, lack of a better word, shot down or not implemented, I think that's very important that
And
we
why.
find out why.
Yeah.
Well, and I
Well-
think that's part of our sheet that we
Yeah.
you make, the transparency that we make available as to, like, this is who we are, what we've done, what is being done, what is not being done, and this is why.
Yeah.
But then that also allows us then to engage the community with that information and then get some information back, those guiding principles, get that information back that we then can make new recommendations in this year, at the end of this year, as to what the community told us that they wanted and we've discussed and want to move forward with as recommendations.
And with
Because
that-
to your point, the goals don't change, but the recommendations might have to change
Yeah.
to work toward the goals.
Based on
And
what's
so
implemented.
the goals are things that we have to know, and that they go into the worksheet, yes, but also help us know, are we successful as a committee, as a commission, or not?
And I think that's a very important part that the original commission, maybe they didn't know or didn't understand or just wanted to
Went to
make
the
sure.
doing. Yeah.
Right, some things were put in there and they were considered a minority report, which is what the community wanted, even though they were told that this is not something that can be done. So there are instances like that, but this commission has time to research and to have an understanding what can and cannot be implemented by local government.
I think what's very important as well is there has been a lot of information that's been formally documented, and I convicted myself recently because I was reviewing a report that was created, I want to say in April, that was sharing information about what had and had not been able to be implemented. And one of the aspects had to do with citizens being involved in, I almost want to say disciplinary review boards with LFUCG police.
Yeah.
And that was where the KRS ruling came into play, that was against a policy, back to needing to change policy. So I think it's really, really important for every member who's here and who's not, that we look at the information that's already been provided, because I had to review it myself just to refresh. And here's the kicker, where those things have already been implemented and they haven't, to your point, if we don't have a reason like we do for the KRS situation, then we need to seek the reason why it hasn't been implemented. So it can be documented, so when we stand in front of the people, we can tell them something. Otherwise,
Then we're just.
that's not good. You can't shrug your shoulders talking to the community. It's,
Right, because then to them, we're just useless bunch of people getting together. You know,
Exactly.
We can say, no, we've gone to, council, we've made this recommendation, or we've talked to the state attorney to see what are the possibilities, because that's not something we can do. And the other good thing about that engagement thing, it makes communities start becoming more aware, and then maybe community galvanizes, and then they create the change.
Back to goals.
Right, that's what I was just thinking too.
I think goals, I think we assess what we recommended and what's been implemented and why things have not been implemented. That's a goal. I think, and if somebody has a list of recommendations, share them out. That's definitely one goal. And then the next goal, and y'all can chop this up, is how do we communicate it to the community? And the city council has a list of all the community neighborhood associations with emails, and we can get it from them pretty easy. Any of the council members have those emails, and we can reach out and say when are your meetings and go to them. But that could be another goal, is communicating what we recommended, what has been put and what has not. And again, from there, I mean, those are two big goals, to be honest. We want to say this is next city.
I'm sorry to interrupt, I'm just the camera guy. But if you go out, if you leave just to go to the neighborhood associations to say, hey, we'd like to get on your agenda for this, I think in some neighborhoods you're going to get a lot of participation, and in some you're not going to get any participation. Depends where you are in town, obviously. Many times council members will have community meetings in their district, which brings a broader audience and brings a council person to the table, which then brings more people to the table with more interest. And then you could get, and they're usually looking for content. They'll bring like traffic engineers in for people to talk about stuff. So this might be something that you go to the council members and say, when you have neighborhood associate or neighborhood meetings, and that gives you an automatic introduction and you get an automatic audience as well. Because I think neighborhood association meetings, people go there, they're talking about putting flowers out there in the median, the parade is going to be at the 4th of July. I don't know if they're really ready to talk this level of information.
Well, you'd be surprised.
Yeah. Well, and then maybe, again, it probably depends the topic in the neighborhood you're in. Again,
And probably who's taking it to that
yeah.
specific neighborhood.
And the other idea I had on the venues also, and I don't know if this is even an option, Tiffany, is to generate your own meetings, to
Which
go
is
out
what I would
to
say.
the libraries, where they have the meeting rooms, and you can advertise these things in the various neighborhoods, around the city, where you can set up and you control the environment now. where you can go in, you can do your presentation. And if you want to have back and forth conversation, you're in control of the agenda, how long you're there, where the council member's gonna go, okay, we've had enough here, you know. So,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah, I think there's two schools of thought. One, existing meetings, it's low-hanging fruit, and it's convenient, and it's kind of a captive audience. The caveat to that is, and it's one of the reasons why we're here, neighborhoods have been strategically created to be uniquely different.
Yeah.
And for those neighborhoods that are not comprised majorly of those members of the community that are affected by a lot of the discussions that we have, well then probably won't be a lot of feedback or involvement, because in that neighborhood, it doesn't matter as much. That's fine.
And that's good information.
Yeah, but there
That's
are
still good.
but there are those that do matter, right? They're very significant. And then the next thing is for those meetings that we do create, making sure that we do advertise, evangelize, get the news out.
we can help you with that.
And yeah, and I agree with what you were saying, with to have those set up strategically based upon our timeline, I think makes all the sense in the world. And that would be the perfect forum for the meetings that we call to review what has been done, versus us coming in with an agenda to someone else's meeting, telling them about what we've done. I think for those meetings that we go to that are already established, we should first enter as a listener.
Yep.
And information seeker, and maybe share a little information. But for those that we set up, delivering, still listening, but using that as the main format to deliver information. Because just from my involvement over the past 20 years, what I have seen is a disconnect when you have an entity come into a meeting and you feel like they represent an opportunity for better and to give you a voice, and then they do all the talking. So we don't want to enter neighborhood associations that way.
One of my number one concerns, I guess it would be a goal, it should be a goal, we talked about that earlier, is to educate the community. The community, first of all, doesn't know who we are. They don't know what we do. And all our committee meetings we have or whatever, people are not aware that they have someone to hear them, to listen to. So I just really feel like educating the community should be listed as one of the goals, as much as we can educate them through schools, through churches, through whatever. Like I gave example before with the Fayette County Schools resource centers. I substitute at some of the schools, and I basically educated some of the resource people in the resource center what things that are out there, what we're doing, basically like for affordable housing, which, you know, I'm on that, and they had no clue where they can use that information to help their people, their students, their families, because that's one of the first places that a lot of families that are in crisis or whatever go, is to the family resource centers at schools. And they have a lot of resources, but they had no clue, a couple of schools had no clue of what, basically what's out there that the Urban County government, that they offer, and with all the things that we're working on, they had no clue that there was a listening ear out there to maybe help guide people. So I think it's a big thing. We need to educate the community, really. That's one of my big things. Because one other example is with affordable housing. I tell people all the time, the Urban County government is not in the housing business. They come and they make complaints about, well, the city this. I said, the city is not in the housing business. They just have the funds that they, you know, to build the affordable housing. So a lot of education, to me, needs to go on, because people are not aware of a lot of things that we do.
What I love about that is absolutely in our purview. That is something that we really absolutely can do with the power that we have, is educate the community. And that is a goal that is wide enough that the tactics can change to achieve that goal. And that goal is talking about, what resources are available out there, but it's also something that is, talking to a neighborhood like mine about the impact of whiteness. It's a wide enough goal that can move over time, and the tactics can change. What did you call you talked about the goal, and then you were talking
The objective or the goal, and then the enabling objective.
enabling objectives that go underneath that might change over time. I think I'm still feeling like a gap between what goals we have and what recommendations we have made. I'd love to be able to talk about how the recommendations serve a goal. So I'm definitely hearing the goal of listening to the community, being the community voice. So having that, then we know that is absolutely within our power and purview. And having that as a goal and having education as a goal, that's something we can do.
Part of the education piece, because like you were talking about housing, whatever, that's where those subcommittees come in. To make the subcommittees work, you get together, you putting together this
Yes.
information, because this is what we're gonna share out. As far as those major goals, I have, just to reiterate, share language, pull together language that we already have to introduce to the commission, our work, our mission, share what we have already done by way of recommendations, communicate what has been implemented or not implemented, and the reasons why or why not, then get feedback on what we have or have not done, and then I guess fifth would be determine next steps.
So I want to just say something. So I think what you were saying about the education, I think, yes, that comes downstream just a little bit once we've gathered a little bit more information. Now, certainly if we're at one of these community engagements and someone says, there is no information out there about X, and we know that there is, we certainly can share that information. I maybe want to change a little bit of how we're thinking. I think we have our goals, we have our purpose, we have our goals. The things that we need to do, one is create the template of who we are, our shared language. We need to determine which meetings, those community meetings we want to attend and engage those community members, and what questions we want to ask, because we want to make sure that we're asking our communities the same questions so that we're gathering the same information back and that we can compile that in a meaningful way. And then the other to do would be to take those recommendations and identify those outcomes for that maybe strategic commission meeting where we are educating on what we've done, but we're not taking those community meetings to do all the talking. We're listening in those meetings. So I think we have 2 meetings that we're talking about, the community engagement meetings where we're really like, this is who we are, these are our goals, this is the information that we'd like to gather from you, and then that other kind of strategic commission meeting where, hey, this is who we are, this is what we've done, these are the outcomes, this is why. And then we could maybe break out into sections, not sections, or just individual, where we as commission members could speak to any of the community members that are there that want to provide information to the questions that we have created.
Yes, I agree. And I think what I'm hearing you say, or this could be leading us to having an order of our work, because I'm feeling like 3 things, and I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts, but I feel like we need to do 3 things internally first. 1, we need to review what has and hasn't been done and have a clear understanding, and then acquire a reason for everything that hasn't been done, that doesn't already have a reason. Like, these are the things prior to engaging the public. And then the third thing is the shared language. Like, we do those 3 things. I'm sorry, there's a 4th one, the talking points. And I feel that we should have some universal talking points but then there should also be room or liberty if there is a specific type of meeting you're attending to where it's obvious, there will be other questions that will be more important to that particular group. Like if it was the neighborhood association, but the topic was already set, which was housing or housing disparity. I mean, we don't want to ask questions that are not appropriate for the format if we have that opportunity. But I think if we do those 4 things, it will prepare us to engage and have some consistency of the value that we get from that engagement and the feedback. So,
Can you
thoughts?
repeat the first one?
Review it has been implemented, and then for those things that haven't been implemented, if there's a reason, great. That's where we get into another way to accomplish it, because I still think having citizens be a part of that disciplinary meeting makes all the sense in the world, but maybe there's another way to accomplish it, or work toward changing the law. So review it has been implemented, review it hasn't been implemented, and request a reason for it not having been implemented if it's not already given. Create a list of universal talking points, but leave room for talking points or questions to be created that fit the specific criteria of the meeting. And shared language based on the language that we already have captured in the documentation.
I think the talking points, for me, also fall in shared language, because we're creating those, so when we go out, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
I agree. So those 4 things are our goals to accomplish, or at least one set of goals to accomplish. And one of the enabling objectives of that
Here
goal
we go.
is you said there's a list of all neighborhood associations, right? And then someone else made a comment about the council member meetings. The cameraman. Hello, sir.
Camera guy.
So,
No name, just camera.
Chris, the modality of getting included in those meetings or just being aware of it, what do we think the best way is to accomplish that? So when they have a meeting, we're invited, or we're aware of it, have the opportunity, other than just scrubbing websites and all this
So
stuff.
we have to have multiple, because some people don't do social media, some people don't do email.
Yeah.
So, community bulletin boards, neighborhood association meetings, walking, I've been on, go door to door, to talk to people about stuff. So I think you have to consider them all,
I
the
like
most,
that.
at least the most effective ones, so that we hit majority of people. There's a
Well-
lot of older people who some of these things affect, like housing, whatever. Technology is, I have to go home and help my mom set the computer and, do the printer and, she.
I get it.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
I would say start with your council person in your district.
Mhm.
Like with my council person, we have neighborhood meetings every so often, and I'll get with him and
Right.
see, and then maybe we all live in different council districts, like Mr. Chris
Evans.
suggested that would be probably a start.
Captain America.
We all probably live in different
Second.
council
Captain
districts and
America.
get with your
Yes.
council.
I think
Make sure we
between.
have them covered.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think between the list that the city council has and the ones that the committee members all know of and are aware of, if we can just pool all of that together, figure out when the meetings are they every month, every other month, times, places, and then from there we can strategically figure out which ones we should go hit, at what time, who should go, and stuff, so we can actually put a schedule together. That way the meetings are divvied up among all of us as opposed to just a few people. And then we can figure out how we can at least start collecting information. And while we're doing that, we can put together the talking points and the general language for us, so then once we're ready, we will already have a schedule out there that we can start assigning or asking for volunteers to go to. That way we can start engaging them.
Please.
Question. This being a campaign season, campaign election year, don't you think hitting yourselves to council member would look political?
I didn't hear your question.
Would it
Since it's
look
an
good?
election year, would it be seen as political to connect ourselves to a particular commission member?
Councilman.
Or
Councilman.
I don't
Well,
think
I
political.
disagree with that because my councilman, he would probably love for me to come to him and say, okay, you know, do we have any concerns in our neighborhood? And he would say, yeah, I would love for you to come and talk with the group. I don't think it would be anything political because that's what we're commissioned to do. So say if you went with your council person and they wanted to know, well, can you talk about affordable housing? Well, if you couldn't, you may would call me because I'm more versed in that. So we can, you know, I think that would just be a good avenue to start with the council.
I also hear that as a potential great point to put on our worksheet.
But I
About
was
part
getting
of
ready
our
to
mission is, you know,
I
that
was
that
getting
we
ready-
represent everyone and not just one particular, you
Right,
know,
and we
And
can
I'm-
go around.
council member.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, yes, in some cases that could be. It depends on how this is approached. I think what we're talking about is getting the neighborhood association list from council members, getting the council members to find out when they have their council meetings in their district to start from there, because those are already meetings. We don't have to, we're not saying we're, supporting this council, whatever. We're just trying to get that low-hanging fruit. These are established meetings
Right.
that we're trying to
Yeah.
get
And see
into.
what their issue is, and if their issue is housing, you know, you call me and say, well, my councilman, his issue on his committee meeting, or I mean, the neighborhood meeting is housing or economic development or education or whatever. So I think that's a good avenue to start, and we can hit them all.
To address your statement, I don't think that the commission is going to be asking various council members to partner with. We're gonna go to all of the council members evenly, so it's not that we're asking for some to work with us and some not. We'll be going to all of them. So
I get that. That's what I'm saying. Like, if it weren't election year, it would make sense. But if someone is running against someone and you showing up for one versus the other, it's the look.
Oh, I see
And
what
then
you're saying.
the
Does
second
does it
thing.
look like a
Yeah.
campaign?
Then
But you got elections every 2 years, I mean, you're always gonna be following that.
Right.
And then the other thing, if you need neighborhood addresses, I'm with planning, we send out mail for zone changes and everything. I can get you that.
I was gonna say, weren't you sitting here
Yes.
last meeting?
Yes,
Yes.
we're right.
I was just like, I did not recognize him.
And I think as
will
far
say
as those-
yes,
He's with
we would
long-term
like to have
planning.
that.
Yeah.
I'm saying, as far
Yeah.
as the council meeting, all we're trying to do, we're not marrying ourselves to a specific, we're just saying, they should be meeting with their districts anyway. If they're doing that, we're saying that is a meeting where people can come.
Right.
Where we don't have to work as hard. Getting the neighborhood association meetings from the council people, who should know those in our district, that's just, again, low-hanging fruit. We don't have to work as hard. These are established meetings. We're not purporting one against the other. If someone else is running for district, whatever, you're welcome to come to that meeting too, but we're not talking politics. We're just introducing ourselves, or we're saying, this is, what we do. We're doing the shared language thing, or whatever, when we get to that point.
right.
So it's not, we're not marrying ourselves,
To
or
one candidate
or holding
versus
one thing, like, housing is more important than, whatever.
And we
You know.
should consider that it's a perception that might exist when we show up on a list somewhere, to have a statement on the worksheet about how we are not, that part. I mean, I think that
We're
could
not
be
endorsing
reasonable.
anyone.
But I think
Not
the point is,
endorsing
those
it.
meetings should be established.
Agreed.
We're just going to those meetings, to find out when they are,
Agreed.
going to listen.
Yeah, let's see what their issues are.
And I think from an optics standpoint, a real simple 2-sentence. We have an initiative as the commission to visit all council member meetings or pre-established meetings to collect information and establish a presence. All,
Right.
and then we're done.
Well, because they should know what are the needs of their community. They're their voice and the council, so they should be the first one that, and even though it may be perceived on a political basis because of the nature of this year, I think it's important that we are part of that because that's what this commission was created for, to understand the needs of our communities, and they should be the first to.
Now, if they haven't been listening to the districts and they
Right.
show up, then it's gonna look political.
All right, so moving on. I think, I mean, I just, but yes. I think what's really important is for a lot of discussions that are happening, one of the reasons why our work is so important is because while there are issues on the table, the lens through which racial equality, racial justice, racial equity, equality, the lens can often be lacking. And so we will go to those places and help provide that lens because there are conversations that are still very uncomfortable for a lot of people. And so we're here to give a voice to some of those uncomfortable conversations.
And a lot of people don't know that we're actually out there doing stuff, so we have the goals, just gonna make sure we
Yep.
get those.
So I think that maybe next is talking about meeting cadence.
Did you have something else?
No.
Okay.
So I'll just propose that we meet every month as a committee, as the commission, the larger commission, and then quarterly just set up our subcommittees. Now, that first quarter meeting, we may not have anything necessarily that the subcommittee can do related to that subcommittee, but we could certainly review the template and help edit that and make comments or come up with, like review recommendations and those kinds, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's
Yeah.
that kind of work we could do initially. That way we can just set it to say, subcommittees are going to meet quarterly.
On
Commission
these
meets
months,
monthly, yes.
on these days,
Yes, like
at
set
these
a-
times.
Yeah, and then if we don't have content specific to the subcommittee, then we can just say the agenda would be to work on this template or come up with some questions that we can then take to the larger commission and narrow down to what we want our talking points, our questions to be for our public engagement meetings.
Question for Director Brown. Are we allowed to, since we're now thinking of meeting monthly, can we have every other month be in person and every other month be via Zoom? Because both can still be meetings, but they're, one is recorded and other people can attend. Because I'm just thinking about people's schedules, about trying to get a quorum here every month. If is that okay, or do all of our meetings have to be in person?
It would be preferred.
Preferred. Okay, that's cool.
Can
I'm
we-
just
It's easier to schedule,
right.
Oh, that's.
it's easier to schedule.
Right.
When we know.
Yes. Okay.
How
So-
many meetings are we allowed to miss? The reason is, as you know, I'm a tax preparer. This is my time from until April. I don't emerge, and so there may be a couple of those between now and April that I just could not make it.
Which is why I'm wondering about the Zoom
Yeah,
option.
that's what. Yeah.
It's in the bylaws.
Mhm.
I'm not a bylaws expert yet. But I think there's, as long as you notify the chair and myself within 24 hours.
Okay. And it'd probably be, in my case, March and April.
Yeah, I think it's 2 or 3,
It's fine.
pretty sure.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right. So, just to revisit your proposal, we continue to meet monthly as a whole commission, and then once a quarter, we have a set schedule to meet as a committee, as we have. Okay.
So
So are the
We-
committee
when-
chairs gonna be the ones to reach
That was
out?
my question.
Yeah.
Because we have to, like Director Brown said, we got to set those, so.
Well-
Oh, because would the committee chairs do that, or, I don't know.
Set the what?
Set the
Those
schedule for
quarterly,
the
because
committee.
they have to be
Like the
advertised.
exact schedule?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so, because the existing members are gonna have to agree to be present.
Yeah.
But if we can all agree on that being our next steps, then the specific schedule, which must be communicated, must be scheduled, that can be something that we can set the expectation to be accomplished later.
Well, that should be another goal then, because we probably should be in March trying to figure this out. We should probably, committee people should probably know by the next meeting, we should set the quarterlies.
Can we say that, yes, we're going to meet quarterly, we're skipping January as the beginning of the quarter, and that our first subcommittee meeting would be April, and then by the next commission meeting, the subcommittees would have emailed back and forth and created when their subcommittee would meet, and then we could vote on that.
So by February,
By
the
February.
committees will have to
Yeah.
get back to the full commission about what the schedule will be
Yes.
for the rest of the year.
With the
Sounds
first
good.
meeting being April. No.
Mhm.
You can't do business outside of a
Right.
meeting.
That's what I was gonna
So
say.
you can't create
Even-
a schedule outside of a meeting.
Nope.
So you all's next subcommittee meetings are in February. I would suggest
Use
keeping
that
that
time.
and setting your new schedule
That's what I
in
said.
February.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know, it's a little different.
Do we want to vote?
We're so glad you're here.
I was gonna ask
So
if we were
glad
allowed to
you're
email
here.
back and forth about that. We're not allowed.
I mean, I
We
was
can
gonna
email
say
some
something.
stuff back and forth.
Mm-mm.
No, we had that last time, like, if you're not conducting business,
So for your reports, yes,
got it.
because you weren't voting on recommendations, but those recommendations were voted on in.
Here,
Here.
right.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
You miss 3 meetings. You can miss 3 meetings,
Okay.
but if you notify within 2 days, that meeting can be, that excuse can be excused.
And probably April will be the only one.
So do we need to vote on if we're going to officially change the schedule? Or do we have,
We have quorum, right?
There at least needs to be a vote on the commission, the full commission.
The full commission meetings.
all right? So, you're making a motion. All right, so please go ahead and state your motion officially.
I will make a motion that the full commission meet on a monthly basis.
A second. The motion. To me, monthly.
All right, so we have a second. Any questions or discussion? I feel like we've had it, but.
Sorry, discussion.
Sorry.
It stated time and day, not just monthly, so do you want to?
3:30,
First
first
Wednesday.
Wednesday of the month.
Probably second, discussion's been done, so now.
The motion-
Well, we're already meeting the first Wednesdays for the whole commission, right?
Mhm.
That's what I'm proposing, that we.
Oh,
Continue
sorry.
that.
Yes,
So-
to continue that month.
Continue.
Got it, okay. All right, so, all for that, everyone who agrees with that, please show by the side of your hands, or
All in
right
favor?
here. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right, so moves. Thank you. Yeah, all in favor, man. It was gone. I don't know where it went. I have no idea. Said it 1,000 times. Okay, great. So we've got our schedule.
And on the agenda for next time, we'll make sure that we discuss with the committee chair so we can set those. 'Cause I'd rather just get them set up. 'Cause
All the committee meetings are after it's not the first weekend, or the first, it's after the first Wednesday, right? So we wouldn't be able to get back to the full commission with the set schedules until the March meeting, right? Because all of our
Because we'll hold the
February,
February meeting.
all of our February meetings are after that first Wednesday, right?
But the full commission is meeting in February, that's where we should.
Which is the first Wednesday. So what I'm saying is that the committees won't meet till after that February meeting?
No.
No?
There are also committee meetings that are scheduled the first Wednesday
Right,
at the same time.
exactly.
So,
That makes sense.
So how does that work?
so
That means there won't be no subcommittee.
So we'll
meetings.
have to meet with the full commission in March, not February. We'll
Well,
still
you're-
have to hold the February as subcommittee meetings.
you can do that, or you can have the subcommittee schedule discussion with the full commission.
Right.
Let's do that, so we don't have to wait.
So, yeah, we voted that we will be meeting monthly as a full commission.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to have that separate meeting during our next February meeting, we can just
Exactly.
Got it.
set the schedule then. And it could be the following week or 2 weeks after that.
It's
or-
that simple.
Yeah, it's easy enough. All right. So I think we covered our goals, and that led us to our schedule. And so we've got C. How are we doing on time? Okay. Whoa, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We got it.
Interesting.
Well,
All right.
yes.
Well, for the sake of time, are there any pressing announcements that?
Are we foregoing election?
Well, yeah, do number C.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry, I misread my time.
Do we have to have
Yellow
this
watch.
meeting?
So.
I was gonna make a motion that we
Postpone it to
postpone to February.
I think we can do that.
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone the nominations, election of the chair and vice chair to February.
Oh,
Go ahead.
no, I was, what, no, go ahead.
Well, I guess you can accept it and then I can do discussion.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Is there a second?
is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion?
What's the purpose of waiting?
Time, and we still have Ms. Brown's
Update.
update, and in February, we might have the full commission, other
Full.
people might want to be nominated or whatever.
There's a quorum here. It was sent out email before we got here that there will be a discussion and nominations for a chair and vice chair. I think everyone was fully aware, unless they didn't. It is holiday season, so I don't want to assume, but I don't see any reason to kicking the can down the.
And there was an invitation to give those nominations ahead of time, so not even just here, but it was solicited by email to submit in advance.
They need to be prepared, so.
I received none.
You received that? Oh, well. Okay.
So I don't know. It's this. We're at discussion time, and I'm not going to dismiss the proposal to move it. But from my point of view, I think we vote today. Just wanted to make a note.
All right, so, thank you for the discussion. So, all for moving to the next meeting? All in favor? Opposed?
I feel like we.
3
yeah.
opposed, 2 and
Yeah.
2 abstain.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
So then,
I'm sorry?
Do you,
I don't even know what that means.
It's like,
It fails.
yeah, it fails.
well, it depends on how many people you have to pass a vote, because how many people are on, how many
You have to have
commission
8.
members do you have?
We have 14.
You have 14.
14,
So how many
correct.
people?
I have 8.
You have to have
have
8.
8.
vote.
Is
in
that
favor.
8 of everybody that's here, or everybody that's a whole commission?
8 that's present.
Yeah. So you have to be unanimous when that passes.
Wait, you adding that in, I don't know, that means that you have to be unanimous to pass. I say that.
Well, in this
if
group,
you have
you
a
only have
quorum.
8 commission members.
Yeah, but, and then majority
I got confused.
rules. You have a commission when you have to have majority, or you have to have the 8 to be here to vote on anything. If it was only 7, we couldn't vote on anything, but 8 is here to vote. And of those 8, the majority of those 8 can pass or whatever.
I think that,
See, that doesn't,
Yeah.
for council, that doesn't work that way.
No.
If you have to have 8 votes to pass something in council, if you have to have a full 8 votes. It doesn't shrink depending on how many people are actually at the meeting.
oh, I see.
It stays the same.
Yeah.
So in our bylaws, it says we would follow,
Exactly.
and I can't remember what the book.
Robert's
Robert's
rules.
Yeah, the rest. We would follow. So whatever that says is what we have to go by for this.
Yeah, and that's not, and I'm not an expert, but that's not how many people are present, that's how many people overall that have a vote.
Mhm.
So to move it, 8 people would have to agree to move it.
Yeah.
All of us would have to agree.
That's present.
All right.
So-
Sorry. I'm just kidding.
No,
So
it's good.
so does that mean then we move forward with the nominations and election?
I believe
Yes.
so.
I think so.
Yep.
Okay.
So I would like to nominate Marshall Fields to be chair.
I'll second that.
I'll say.
Third, no.
So, please forgive me, breaking a little. As the current interim, how do I proceed over this? Because,
You can still vote.
You still go, it's just.
You can still vote.
yeah,
Because
okay,
you're voting as a commission member.
okay.
Yeah.
Vote for you.
I'm fine with that. I guess it's my vote.
Moved properly second, now you raise for a vote, discussion.
All right, so it was seconded, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Everyone agreed, so official vote?
All those in favor?
All those in favor? I guess me too. That's weird. Any opposed? There's no one else. So
You don't oppose it,
All right, good deal.
Thank you.
The next would be vice chair. Is that something that, do we have any issues moving forward with that?
Anyone want to nominate the vice
Yeah.
chair?
Who would like to nominate? What nominees do we have for a vice chair?
Trying to give eye contact.
You?
No.
I'd like to nominate Jessica.
Second.
It's been seconded.
Moved properly second.
Second. All right, so all those in favor of Jessica being vice chair?
So everybody has to vote, right, or it
Yeah.
fails?
Yeah.
Are you?
All right,
Are you?
Only because I seconded you.
all right, good deal.
Great.
Yeah, you kind of had to, didn't you?
So
I
like
set
you said earlier,
myself up
we're
for
doers.
that.
I don't like kicking can down the road when we don't
Yeah.
have to.
All good.
Great.
All right, I would say opposed, but that's a moot point. So, motion passes.
Yeah.
So we have 6 minutes to finish the agenda.
Right? Oh, yeah, we can do that.
Director
We can
Brown,
do
you're
that.
on.
Okay. As I stated earlier about the name change, so Councilmember Brown is gonna be the council member that will introduce the amendment to the ordinance to change the name. So we will get that on the schedule once they get back. And it's a pretty simple process. Other updates as it relates to the work of the commission. I will update you all, I will actually upload to the Google Drive an updated recommendation sheet that tracks whether they have been complete. I think they're outside of the 17 through 25 and law enforcement, justice and accountability, and a few others. Almost all of them have been implemented and are ongoing. So I will update that in the tracker, but I also send it out to the group so that you all are aware. Other things, as you all know, we rolled out the mobile market. That was a recommendation from the original report. It has been wildly successful.
Oh,
We
good.
have received a lot of feedback, and we were very intentional about wanting to get feedback, whether it be positive or negative. So we set up a comment section on our website where people can leave comments. I have not received any negative feedback there. I have received some, but not there. And there are all opportunities for us to do something different. The ones that we have, so updating language access and things like that for communities who have language barriers. So that's one thing, and then we're still waiting on ramps for entrance and exit for the trucks, so that individuals who need that accessibility can still shop. There are people on there that will still shop for them, and if they are able to get up the like three steps.
Congratulations.
But I just got a report from Kroger. The month of December is when they rolled out, and they already had over 200 transactions.
Wow.
So that is, I mean, it's great. We have other counties that bring it here, and we don't do that because it's for the benefit of Lexington Fayette County residents. The disparity study has been completed. They're in the phase that is in, that's under economic opportunities. So the phase that is in getting an implementation plan together for those recommendations. I believe there were 7 recommendations that came out of that report. So we'll be helping that team to implement those recommendations once the implementation plan has been delivered to us by a consultant. There's, before the break, to one of the recommendations under education, instituting the whole family approach. Lexington Fayette Urban County Government, Mayor Gordon, myself, the NCFL family, and Fayette County Public Schools, with Miranda Scully driving it. We are partnering with NCFL to institute family learning communities. So there's a lot being done. I'm trying to. Today's my second day back after 2 weeks being off, so I'm trying to download everything. No, there's a lot going on, even behind the scenes, even as it relates to creating this office and shared language and things like that. That is kind of moving. Not sure how or when it will be done, but I think the first step that everyone is willing to take is the assessment. So that we have something to measure ourselves against.
Yes.
We don't, to your point, we don't know if anything is successful. It seems that it is. We don't know that unless we have a baseline. So the first thing would be to request funding, and I have already had that discussion about requesting funding for that equity assessment. What else is going on? We will be releasing you all's report. I am going to need somebody to step up and volunteer to help get the racial equity report, because I do not have that one. So we need someone from, I know you all are volunteers, but that's part of the responsibilities of the members of this commission is to report. So, for those of you that are on that subcommittee, if you would not mind, because that's really kind of like the hold up to
Right.
our communications team is ready to get this show on the road.
Is there a first draft of it?
No.
That's been, okay,
We only have recommendations.
okay.
Okay.
But I do have all of the minutes from what's been discussed, so that could help do that work. But another thing that I believe would be beneficial to not only city government, but our city as a whole, is to understand what we are doing toward equity in general. There's a lot of pushback as it relates to DE&I efforts right now. And there's expected to be some pushback in the legislature in this session. So it's really important to help people put these pieces together to understand why equity is so important. And so what that looks like at the service level for city services and communities. So what that looks like, tree canopy being different in one neighborhood than another neighborhood, and how folks have access to transportation. And a lot of this will help, a lot of this information will be shared when the report is released. So I'll be releasing a companion report that details what the city is doing in each division as it relates to equity.
And thank you for the update. I think that the last statement that Director Brown made points back to the importance of having shared language. I know that I've seen many times where equality and equity are confused. The simplest way to put it is equality is everybody gets a pair of shoes. Equity is you get to choose the pair of shoes that's best for you. That's a real simple definition, but it can get more complicated than that. And I think the more shared language we have, the easier it is to understand when something is or is not happening. I do have one question, and this has to do with, I believe the position was called housing advocate. I think for a while there was someone in that position and then that person left. Do you know if that's been filled?
It has.
Awesome, cool.
I don't know the name of the person offhand, but it has been filled.
Okay, awesome.
It should be under, if you go onto the housing advocacy and community development page, it should have their staff on there.
Excellent. There is a link to the Google Drive. I had Director Brown, I asked her to resend it to me. So I will be sending that out to you all. And that will be a point of access for us to not only review the updated spreadsheet of things that have been implemented and things that are not, but also a place to where we can deposit any information as it relates to community engagement, involvement, opportunities, things of that nature. So we have a shared location for those events, whether it's a flyer, an email, a Word document, whatever, we can begin to collect those opportunities. So, excellent. All right, I'm pretty sure we're at time. I haven't looked at my watch.
I'll help with writing the report since I'm on the subcommittee. Can we offline about that, or do we have to talk about here?
We can offer some report.
Okay.
Awesome.
Collect me too, because I asked him to let me know if he needed me to either do it for him or help him. He never said anything, so.
Me too.
I'll rally the subcommittee to help
Okay.
write it.
Good deal. All right, I believe we are done. There is a section for new business. I think it kind of just happened.
He's leaving.
So, motion to adjourn?
I can make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded? All right. All right.
Aye.
Accepted.
Thank you.
Yeah.